You're listening to the Nothing Podcast with Nobody Important, where a group of nobodies speak to an actual somebody. And now your hosts, John and Frank.
Happy Hanukkah, everybody. I'm Frank.
I'm John.
And this is the Nothing Podcast
With nobody important.
Warm up those dreidels,
Oh,
babies.
I'm ready.
This is an episode you get when you put three Catholics together
Yep.
with two people who are Jewish.
Jews.
Watch those sparks fly.
Oh, yeah. Listen, it's the holidays. It's
Yeah.
not Christmas time. It's the holidays.
Get with it.
People,
Get with it, Uncle Jeff.
right?
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
So we felt like we needed to represent Hanukkah
Yeah.
like any other holiday, and Hanukkah deserved all the acclaim that Christmas gets.
We want to give it some love.
Yeah.
Right. Because, in planning our holiday few weeks, we did want to include somebody that wasn't like about Santa.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
this show is all about learning. And I, myself, had prepared a bunch of Passover stuff for this episode, which means I needed to learn.
You actually, Danielle, it's weird because you didn't say anything when John was smearing blood over your doorway. I was like, I think that's wrong. That's like you have the mistletoe and then you just have just blood.
Well, I had to return all the frogs.
Yeah.
But, no, listen, we wanted to educate ourselves on Hanukkah and all things Judaism.
Yeah, I did. A lot of things happened today. I didn't know any of it, and now I know a lot of it.
Oh, yeah. I anticipated this to be a very funny, irreverent episode. And it was funny.
Yeah.
But I learned a lot, and it became a very real discussion, I think, on the connections that we all have to each other.
Yeah.
And the ways that our cultures mesh together, and how they sometimes clash, and really about what it means to be Jewish. It got pretty deep for a holiday episode, I think.
I think I'm Jewish now. That's how it works, right?
I'm pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure I'm 100% Jewish
that
right now.
and a little snip, and you'll be Jewish, no problem.
Moving on. Shall we get to it? Fry up those latkes
Put on your yarmulkes.
and pay for the pro version of your JDate account.
That's right, Maccabees.
The Jewish episode of the Nothing Podcast.
Starts right now with our guests.
Hi, my name is Jess, and my Hebrew name is Esther Batzera.
And my name is Rob, and my Hebrew name is Label Reuven.
And we're Jewish.
Shalom, Frank.
Shalom, John.
I'm so excited.
It's the holiday season.
It sure is.
Yeah.
And it's not the Christmas season, it's the holiday season.
You're damn right.
Which is why we've welcomed Jess and Rob here into our little studio.
They're the Nothing Podcast resident Jews.
Welcome.
There they are.
How's it going, guys?
It's good. How are you?
Great.
Good. Yeah, well, thanks. Somebody has to fill in for the applause with Tom not
There
here.
it is.
So, guys, Jewish. It's funny. I was listening to the last Christmas episode we did, and I was thinking to myself, we talk about Hanukkah a lot, and in that episode, full disclosure, everybody, we joked about people say Happy Holidays or whatever, and I cut that because I was like, that's offensive. Because I think that I always say Happy Holidays because there's multiple holidays.
Right.
And then in cutting it, I was like, no, I think we need an opinion from the other side of the table.
Yeah.
So
The other side of the Seder table.
it's Hanukkah time.
Happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah.
So when is Hanukkah?
Hanukkah starts December 22nd.
Yeah.
December 22nd.
It's late this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it falls around the same time as Christmas, which is really nice.
Right. Last year they were on the same, started on the 25th. Is that right?
No,
Christmas Eve?
Hanukkah started,
thought it started even
earlier.
early
I think,
December.
I think it was like the first week in December last
Oh, the
year.
last
Yeah.
day was on Christmas. Something like that.
No.
I don't know.
It was
Some,
like,
it
it was
lined
like
up.
a Subway series.
There have been times.
Old
Yeah.
Testament, New
Hanukkah-
Testament,
Hanukkah-
one night only. So by the end of this episode, hopefully in an hour, we'd like you to convert us. Just full disclosure.
Yeah, basically.
We're ready. We're open to your faith.
Yep, we want to get snipped. Emotionally.
Emotionally snipped away from our church. Okay.
Well,
so
you watched Men in Tights, so you know how it
Wait,
works.
Exactly. We know how it goes. Exactly.
Can we,
exactly.
need
can
a
we
oil.
say this? So as John and I were preparing notes for our this show, right? And we do it separately, and sometimes we show each other the notes, sometimes we don't. But we both agreed at the top of our list. I'm going to read my sentence. You want to read your sentence?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
My sentence is, can we say Jew? Sounds so harsh. And John's
Right.
is,
I wrote that I wanted to discuss the weaponizing of the word Jew.
it's rough.
What's that? What's up with that? Do you guys get offended when people are like Jew?
Well, it sounds like you're a cow or you're a horse.
But why does it sound like that?
I don't know.
Because it's
I
a
think
monosyllable word,
Yeah,
that's why.
It's not like
Yeah.
you're a Catholic, you're a Muslim. I don't know. It sounds harsh. I don't know why.
It probably has to do with the history
Right.
of it because it has been weaponized a lot. Just
There's a lot
Jew, it became a very, very heavy word, and it becomes something that's. And I don't know if it's necessarily because Jews historically felt like they were threatened by being called Jews.
Right.
I don't necessarily, if I say, "Oh, I'm a Jew," I don't necessarily think I'm weaponizing myself.
Right,
or
it's
anything
not really
like
a
that.
negative thing,
But I think
right.
it's because other people used it in some sort of negative connotation
Yeah.
as a fear-mongering tactic.
It's like the
Yes,
N-word.
correct.
It's
with
like-
it's with African Americans.
It feels like that,
It feels
doesn't
that
it?
way.
And now,
Yeah.
But that's the thing. So we were both agreeing that it feels that way to us.
Right.
But does it feel that way to you also?
Does it feel that way to you? Stop.
It
just
depends on
rhymes
the
with-
it depends on the context.
And it rhymes
Yeah.
with so many
Yeah,
things.
it depends on the context. I would say.
Danielle, how do you feel? Would you feel comfortable just referring to them as Jews instead of Jewish Americans?
No, I would absolutely say Jewish.
Jewish.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
say
Jewish.
Jewish.
Yeah.
Or
Because it-
Druish, if
Or
Druish.
Jewish
Or,
baseball,
or
right.
Druids. Bert, born Jewish.
Yes.
100%. Jess, 50-50?
my mother's Jewish and my dad is Catholic.
Okay.
See, I didn't know that about you. We're going to learn a lot about the where and how of this, because I always thought that you were Italian, and then
Because my last
Well, your
name,
maiden name
my
was
maiden name
Italian.
was Italian.
right, and
Yeah.
then married
And-
Jewish.
And here's something too, because Jess and I, when we were dating, we met on JDate.
I love
Right.
it. I love it so
Online.
much. It's perfect.
And of course, when you're first on JDate, you all have screen names, and therefore you're sort of hiding behind a certain degree of anonymity. So once we finally linked up together on Facebook, I saw that her last name was DiCarlo, which is heavily Italian.
Right.
I'm thinking to myself, you don't see a lot of that these days.
And his screen name was "I'm the Jew for you."
No, it was not.
Wow.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. No,
Did you guys
you're lying.
Did you have fun screen names?
Mine was like probably like Jess Rabbit or something like that, and
Yeah.
yours
Jess
was
Rabbi?
Jess Rabbi. I was going to say that. Hey, we should have a podcast.
Jess Rabbit
Jessica
something,
Rabbi.
and then yours was like something in graphic design because you were
I
a graphic
guess.
designer at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, so they don't necessarily lean into the Judaism
No,
of it.
some men and women have
Like I
fun
said,
with
it
it.
rhymes with a lot of things.
Yeah.
See, but okay, so this might spin it too far off of the J-date topic right now, but in my interpretation, like there are some people, Judaism has a wide reach, right? So some people culturally identify with Judaism, but it's not
Yes.
necessarily a spiritual thing, but there's a
Yeah.
lot of the traditions and maybe even the thinking that goes along with it, but not necessarily the religiosity
I think
to,
both.
to it. So
Yeah.
on J-date, look, I know there's you guys like Rob, you don't wear a yarmulke, right? But then there's Jewish people who wear yarmulkes, and there's Hasidic Jews and Orthodox Jews. So on J-date, and I mean this as a legit question, are there categories of are there like degrees of Jewishness on J-date?
Yes, you can identify yourself as what type of or how religious
Denomination?
you are.
There-
Denomination. Yeah.
There were even people who on there who listed for religious preference, not Jewish, but interested in converting.
Yeah.
Okay, got
Or
it.
willing to convert.
So it's
Yeah,
open.
we have a friend yesterday who told us that he's on J-date, and I said, "You're
Yeah.
not Jewish," and he said, "Well, but I'm finding that I have a type."
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That was yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say Rob and I are both Reformed
Right,
and
right.
probably identify more as cultural Jews just because I think we like the traditions and we like, our families embrace certain aspects of the religion.
Right.
But Rob is not particularly religious.
Well, like most Catholics,
Yeah.
you'll find these
Yeah.
days is like the traditions, but there's kind of varying levels of how much
Orthodoxy.
weight you put on.
Orthodoxy,
Exactly.
right. Yeah.
My question was always, so there's Orthodox Jews, and so does everybody else so you guys would refer to yourselves as unorthodox Jews because you're not.
We would be
'Cause you're not-
Reformed.
There are various sects of practice. There's Reform or Reconstructionist.
Right.
There's Conservative, which is a little more conservative. Then you start getting into Modern Orthodox and
Orthodox,
then Orthodox,
and then you have
going all
Hasidic.
the way to Hasidic.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Hasidic, though, that's the most.
those guys.
Yeah,
That's
the
holding
guys
on
with
to
the
the
hats.
old world.
Yeah.
That's the most traditional
Yes.
version, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I have another classic Jewish line that I say all the time is I don't understand What's like you have Catholic, Christian, Muslim, Jewish. What's the hesitation? Why is that one so finicky, but the others, right?
Jewish.
Classic. So tell us about Hanukkah. Do you guys celebrate Hanukkah?
We do.
Yeah.
Do you celebrate Christmas as well?
We do.
That's the best. I love when people say that they do both. It's you get all
Well,
double the gifts.
I do, and Rob is just along for the ride.
Well, yeah, because remember, she's had a lifetime of exposure to it,
Yeah.
whereas mine has been less just all-encompassing, I guess you could say. I mean, my family had an au pair from Germany who was, I'm guessing, Lutheran, I think it was. But, so therefore we had a tree for her because we wanted to respect her, even though she wasn't super religious either. But we wanted to be inclusive and things like that. But we also have had friends over the years who were Catholic or Christian, other sects of Christianity, who celebrated Christmas. So we also participated in that. But in terms of my own family's direct participation in it was certainly less so, until at least Jess and I started going out.
And I always grew up having Christmas. We always had a tree. We always celebrated. Like, Christmas was a big deal on my dad's side of the family.
We don't need to talk about Christmas. That's not this
That's
episode.
fine.
This is our Jewish episode. So, anyway, something Jess had mentioned before we started recording, which we need to talk about, is birthright, right? And
Yeah.
you guys went on this together. This is something I've
Correct.
heard about, but maybe our listeners don't know about birthright. Anybody want to pick it up?
So birthright is basically for kids, adults, young adults, ages like 18 to 26. I believe, and I don't know if that's changed since we did it, but we did birthright. It was 2010.
Yeah.
So we basically applied. You get a free trip to Israel if you are Jewish, and you could be Jewish. Now, the other thing about being Jewish is that some people identify as Jewish either because both their parents are Jewish, but also if the mother is Jewish. So there's this belief that if the mother is Jewish, therefore you're Jewish.
Oh,
Wow.
And however, there were people on our trip who had a Catholic mother but a Jewish father, and they were allowed to go on the trip. So basically, the
Well,
trip
that's
is
nice.
funded by
Right.
a philanthropist in America. Do you remember where?
Well, I think the big philanthropist, at least back when we were on it, was Sheldon Adelson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a Jewish name.
Yeah. Well,
I believe you.
Yeah. He's a hotel magnate, I think, and
Yeah.
So you were dating at this point,
Yeah,
Yes,
we were
we were.
dating
For how long?
for 2 years.
yeah.
and you were like, we should do this together. This would be awesome.
Yeah.
Are there people who don't ever go on their birthright?
There must be.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there
a
are
lot
plenty
of people.
who
Some people don't. It doesn't work out because
Idiots.
you get
Free trip.
It is a process. You do have to apply. Then they do a very short interview with you on the phone, and then you have to select certain. It's a 10-day trip, so you have to select like a window of time,
Right.
And then you're available hopefully for the time that you are given.
And there are various kinds of trips too. The one that we did was through an organization called Israel Outdoors. So it sort of emphasized some of the more natural stuff, and you go to a lot of different monuments as well. So it's not like you're just out in the woods or in the wilderness.
right.
But that was part of it. They have hiking trips. They had biking trips. We did one of the more walking oriented stuff.
I
And
would
ours
like-
was, I think, more reformed. There are others who were more religious, depending on the organization they're associated with.
It sounds great.
So it was nice.
Yeah, it was
So
a
we
good-
were, when we went, we were 25. So, which was nice because we were with, not older, but I mean, an older crowd than
Yeah.
say like college kids were like, I want to party in Israel. So it was nice. A lot of people working. And so it was nice.
Did it do anything for your faith?
I don't know if it did anything for my faith necessarily, but it was interesting because when you're Jewish and you're part of this really small minority of people throughout the world, and you don't necessarily feel as much of a minority in New York because there's a large concentration of Jews here, but we were sitting on the promenade, I think, in Tel Aviv, and we were just like having coffee, and I just see people walking by, and I said to Jess, I said, almost every one of these people here is Jewish. And you don't see that anywhere else in the world.
Right.
And
you
they-
feel like
they-
you're
That's
with
cool.
your people.
And they will come up to you and start speaking Hebrew.
Yeah.
And they just assume that you're Jewish.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic. That, will never happen here. Hasidic Jews would
I mean,
look
Jess,
at us
you're
and be like,
literally wearing a swetter with a light up menorah
Yeah.
on it. I'm going to assume
now
you're
you can
Jewish.
identify me, but
No, but I think there's something to be said about going to a place where you feel not at home, but like these are your
your roots.
people. These are the
your
roots.
roots.
Here they are.
Well, it's interesting because I definitely had exposure to Judaism. I went to Hebrew school. We celebrated the holidays. I went to temple, but I I felt somewhat connected in Israel, but I felt more connected when I was in Italy because I grew up with more of those Italian kind of Catholic traditions. Not that I even really went to church often, but just like family-wise and what I was exposed to was very different. But what was cool about the trip was that it gave me the opportunity, and along with some other people, to be bat mitzvahed because I never had a bat mitzvah. And it wasn't because anybody in my family was for or against it, but at the time, the age when you're a girl, it's 12.
Right.
And at the time, my parents were going through going through a divorce, and I couldn't imagine having a party at that time.
So you got to do that while you were there, which is amazing.
Yeah, on Masada, which is...
What? What'd you say?
Masada. It's
I think there's going to be a lot of that in this episode.
What's Masada with you?
What's the matter with you?
What's up with that? What catering hall did you have today?
It's an ancient fortress on the top of a mountain in the Judean desert, sort of overlooking the Dead Sea. And a lot of people like to go up there to be bar or bat mitzvah. A few of my cousins did that over several years.
And when you do the hike, you have to wake up like at 2 or 3 in the morning to ride a bus to get to the place to hike, and then you get to watch the sunrise, and that's one of the most beautiful sights you'll ever see.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
This must have been cool for your relationship.
Yeah,
I would imagine.
Yeah.
You're going to a brand new place that's connected to your history.
Yeah, it was really
awesome.
cool, and there were other couples on our trip too.
Yeah.
And it's funny because you have to we didn't stay together, but they were like, but if you want to,
Right.
Yeah, they're
make
cool.
a couple of Jewish babies while you're here, that'd be
Yeah,
great.
right. Well,
Because they do encourage that, and it's,
Really?
it's
What?
not. And they do discuss the importance of carrying on Jewish traditions.
Yeah, of course.
And and marrying Jewish and having Jewish babies and basically procreating for the faith. And so they weren't aggressive about it on our particular trip. And I know other people who've gone on this birthright and they're a little more aggressive.
How aggressive can they be? What do they stand in the room?
Let's go.
Yeah.
Even if you're not a married couple.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Rob, you got to see her become a woman, which is unusual.
really weird.
Just an unusual, not something that someone usually gets to experience.
I watched my wife become a woman.
Yes.
No, but
Okay.
that's really awesome.
Yeah, it
That's
was great.
so
It was
cool.
amazing. Yeah.
And I was always jealous because I was always like, man, I didn't get a trip when I was born. I wasn't handed a trip. You get to go somewhere.
Right.
So just know that you might feel like you're the minority, but
We're jealous
I was
of your
always
trip.
jealous because I want a trip.
But
I'll
you
go
could
to-
probably guess the answers to the questions to get on it. You look Jewish.
Yeah. Well, people always tell me that I look Jewish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is
and
a thing I never understood because I don't know what that means. In my mind, and this is a little going off topic, but we'll circle back. But in my mind, I never understood Jews are inherently, I guess, from Israeli background. Or
well, no,
necessarily.
because Israel wasn't.
but
Yeah.
like
Eastern Europe. Eastern
East-
Europe.
yeah.
For example, like my own heritage comes primarily from either Russia or Ukraine, and then sort of moving through Poland and Hungary. And
but it's location based.
it's location based. The thing is, I don't necessarily know in terms of how Jewish people spread out, because originally there was the Kingdom of Judea, and in that area of where Israel currently is now, and it's also what's called Palestine at one
Right.
point, and there's a lot of complicated history.
Right, so it's
in that
easier to say
area.
Jewish
Is
than
there?
it is to say right, than it is
And-
to say specifically from one place.
So I don't necessarily know how it spread from, say, up through Russia and then into Eastern Europe, but that's primarily where my heritage comes from, and I don't necessarily know how it traces back. I'm sure there can be a line if I went deep enough into Ancestry.com or whatever, if there are even records.
Right.
But
Actually, his family's from Anatevka, so that's
yeah.
For our non-musical theater listeners,
Right.
Anatevka,
Yes.
the fictional town from Fiddler
Yes.
on the Roof.
my Jewish side is, we're from Spain, England.
Right,
and,
so it's a mixed
So
bag.
it's a mix,
Right.
yeah.
But
There's
I just-
Sephardic Jew, there's Ashkenazi, he's Ashkenazi.
But
mine is
people
more
tell me
Sephardic.
I look Jewish, and I always, in my head, would say, how do I look like I believe a certain thing? Like, it's a faith.
I think there's
No,
certain-
how do you look
I
a
think
faith?
it's a
No.
stereotype.
Yeah, it's also called being from New York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
people always tell me that I look Jewish, and I never understood that because I'm
Yeah.
like, that's a faith.
Well, Jewish, Italian, it's
It's all- right.
very
Kind of
close.
it's
fall
very,
into
very
the same.
similar.
And the thing is that saying that one looks Jewish, or just even saying that you're Jewish, you say it's a faith, but Judaism is sort of like this, in this unique position where the cultural identity of it, minus the religion, but also the religious identity of it, have sort of become viewed as interchangeable.
Yeah,
Right.
that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And it's kind of a weird position to be in, but it's
Absolutely.
interesting
Yeah.
to think about.
Yeah, some people don't separate the two. They think Jewish is a nationality.
Right.
Right. That's
fine. But you would even bat an eyelash if somebody said that.
Yeah, I mean,
'cause I-
most of the time, no.
I'll say, growing up, my best friend Renee Goldfarb, Jewish, from elementary school, and I went to public school my whole life. Most of my public school elementary teachers were older Jewish women. I have a great affinity for. I swear,
Yeah.
there was something about them. I don't know if this sounds terrible that I'm like making blanket statements, but I think they're positive about like older Jewish women as just being super kind, approachable, tell you the truth, shoot you straight.
Yep.
Love them. I love them. I can name all my teachers. They were all older Jewish women.
Right.
Yeah, same. I grew
And
up
they
in
cared a lot about education.
Yes.
Yeah, education.
They
was
did, and they
incredibly
were
important.
exciting, and they were great teachers, which now I know being in education.
Right.
But they were like, they were the best.
Yeah.
They were
Yeah.
just the best.
I want to throw a wrench in it here. Why do you feel the need? Now I'm not talking to Frank specifically. Why do you feel the need to say they were the best, like you're defending them? Who's saying they're not? Is my question, and I think that comes down to where we all grew up. Here in because our show is Brooklyn based, New York based. Why, as a New Yorker, do you feel the need when you say they were all Jewish and they were great? Who were you defending them against?
I don't know. I'm saying
I don't mean you specifically because I'm just thinking this, but
I'm
you're
defending them
saying you
against
did
the
it.
Nazis.
No, but you did it now, right?
Yeah. No, I'm implying that they all had the same thread that seemed to run through all
Right,
of them.
right.
That set them apart from other people who taught me in my whole life. And I think it was the fact that they were Brooklyn Jewish women. I mean it. There was something, and I didn't know that at the time, but looking back, the best. I remember constantly hugging them in elementary school, which now in 2019, you can't touch a
can't-
child in
no
school at
hugging
all.
allowed.
Right.
Like push them away with a ruler, right? I think that was the thing that they were great, but I do think they had that in common. I really do.
Right.
But it's not like you did it because they were Jewish. You just did it because they were great.
Yeah, I didn't know they
Right.
were Jewish
Yeah.
at the time.
Exactly.
They were just great.
Exactly.
But so much, and this is a little bit deeper of an episode it's turning into than our other ones, but I think it's worth talking about, honestly. There's, for some reason, like a rivalry, especially in New York, that it feels like the Jewish community, any version of the Jewish community, be it super, like conservative Hasidic or even like you guys
Reformed.
right, whatever it is. There's like a very staunch divide. I always refer to it as it goes back to what we were saying before with the word, like the weaponizing of the word Jew. It's the hard J that's
Yeah.
the difference. When you get I'm a Jew, fine, or you get an Italian guy from Brooklyn who's like you Jew.
Yeah.
It's offensive.
Yes.
There's there's really no difference. Like you said, they were wonderful people. Like, of course they are, because they're normal, nice people like everybody else. Why are there so many people, especially here in New York, who don't feel that way? Where does that come from? Like, why is there such a rivalry that I don't understand? And hopefully, I like to think it's changing, but definitely back in the day, my parents' generation. Not saying my parents feel that way, but
I think I don't know. I think it might tie into religion and the story of Christ. It could have partially something to do with that. And I know nobody thinks that deeply, but when you were raised a certain way, old school, like Italian Catholic, or I think that perhaps people associate Jews as being the villains.
Maybe.
Right.
Sure.
And maybe it's maybe it's subliminal, maybe it's not something that's like on the forefront of people's minds, but it's probably part of their upbringing in a way. And I mean, I didn't go to Catholic school, so again, I can't speak to how Jews are perceived in Catholic school. That's probably something I would ask you guys.
I don't remember. I don't remember them being.
I mean,
I don't remember it being brought
I
up.
think you're going to find a lot of, and you know,
Is this wrong of me to say? Am I
No,
wrong?
this is
Am I
great. No,
offensive
I
to
don't
say
think
that?
you want to say like uneducated people
Yeah.
who would say that, but whatever you want, that specific type would be like, yo, that Jew, right? We're like,
Yeah.
what?
Right.
I think there's a big resentment for the Orthodox Jews who refuse to assimilate, right? This is like
Right.
having the Amish people plunked down right in the middle of
Right,
Brooklyn, right?
right.
Yeah.
Which doesn't affect me literally ever.
Right, it's not, and you're
But
not
I
saying
think-
that people are right to judge them for
No,
that.
no,
but I
no,
think
but people are 100%
they
gonna
draw a
judge them.
line.
Like, for example, with the assimilation thing, like the whole thing that's happened recently with the Orthodox community has been just the debate about vaccinations.
Right.
Like
Right.
that has been like the hot button issue when it comes to the Orthodox in New York. So I think that's case in point in terms of talking about certain sects of any group that don't necessarily want to assimilate, and they're sort of drawing a hard line on what they believe. And obviously, it's important to have principles, regardless of what they are, so long as they're not necessarily trying to kill somebody.
In this case,
Sure.
it is affecting other people, and,
Right.
and spreading illness,
Of
and
course.
that is why it's been such a hot button topic.
Right.
This is great.
Yeah. I mean, I don't.
We usually talk about farting.
Right. Yeah.
We can talk about that too.
Cool.
There's a lot of and there's so many negative stereotypes that get out there that I think that we should just not even we don't. That being said, though, are you guys particularly cheap or
Oh my God, John!
Well, I can tell you that on our first date, Rob did pay.
Yeah.
It was but
How much was
there
that bill at Burger King, Rob? Stop.
I had to slip the coupon underneath the register.
Danielle, do you have anything to say about this? Because you are not Jewish, but have been perceived as Jewish your whole life. Is that right?
Yes, I have a Jewish last name.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, she does.
She does.
She did.
She did. She still.
Well,
so
I still do.
Fisher is your
Correct.
last name.
Correct.
Always spelt with a CH.
Always. It's
And-
very funny.
and
it's
assumed
nice when people
Jewish.
ask.
Right, and you're assumed Jewish most of the time, right?
Always. When I was in college, actually, I had a few really close friends of mine, and they were in the Jewish club. And when we became friends on Facebook, I remember them coming to me and saying, you're not Jewish, right? Because a couple of my friends were asking about, your family and where you're from. I was like, oh, no, I'm not Jewish. I mean, I know I have a Jewish last name, but I don't have any information past that.
Yeah.
And they wanted
the club?
me. No, so they wanted me. They wanted me to go to the one of the meetings of the club, and talk to whoever was organizing it. And it was really funny. I ended up not doing it, but it was kind of fascinating to sort of be a part of a crew and not really inherently being part of it.
Right. I've sort of felt that too. I get wished a Happy New Year all the time when it's not our.
What year
New
is it now, Jewish friends?
Oh,
57 something.
Oh, what? We have to. What?
Well, first of all, remember,
Jewish year.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew
Oh, yeah.
Jewish New Year had a different New Year than us, but I always thought to myself,
No.
it's January. What are we doing? Is it not January for you? What do you like? But there was, I didn't
well,
know.
first of all, the Jewish calendar is a lunar-based calendar. That's one thing. And remember also, Judaism has been around for a lot
Ever.
longer
Right.
than Christianity. So, most of the world now is based on the Gregorian calendar, which I think was set up, again under, Christian authorities back in the old days. Don't quote me on that. Obviously, I'd have
Right,
to do more
right.
research because I'm just saying that off the top of my head. But I think that's the way that it was. But Judaism has been around for over 5,000 years, so it's based on
They're still counting.
that old history.
Right.
Yeah, but
So
so,
I
Believe it or
Now
not,
you
I
know that.
follow the Scientology calendar, and it's only the year 83.
Oh, wow,
you.
great.
fascinating.
L. Ron
Great.
Hubbard. Thank you.
Definitely.
But that's also why our holidays don't always fall on the same day every year, like we were talking at the beginning, and how Hanukkah
Right.
falls differently each year.
Mm-hmm.
So, the Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, could begin sometimes very early in September or sometimes mid to late. It depends
Yep.
on how things fall.
That's so interesting. I had no idea. I mean, I knew that there was a Jewish New Year that wasn't the same, like I said, but I didn't realize that it was different. Like Chinese New Year had like the lunar.
Right.
They have Year of the Pig or whatever. I don't know why I
Right.
picked that one, but.
Year of the pork. Don't eat it. Okay.
All right.
We're going to play a game.
Well.
But John, you're going to play it too, because I have it
Okay,
on my phone.
okay.
Danielle, you can play. Obviously, the Mintzes are playing. So I need you to rate how Jewish you think the following things are. Now, they're people. They're people. So I don't know. Again, it's the rating game. You could rate it however you'd like. Okay.
The ish
How many
scale?
candles?
Dreidels.
How many
How many-
dreidels?
How
are
many
you-
dreidels?
How,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
What's the limit of dreidels?
But it's up to
Whatever you want. You know, you know
Should we
better
do
than we
1
do.
to 5?
How,
1 to 5 dreidels.
1 to 5. How Jewish is Jason Biggs?
I would say maybe 3.5.
Yeah.
Okay.
See,
Danielle?
now that's
3.5 dreidels.
from an outsider. I would say like 5
Because
I'm
of
gonna
how he
say-
looks.
because he's
Danielle?
I didn't even know he was Jewish.
So Jason Biggs,
It's the curly hair I'm going
ladies
with.
and gentlemen.
Funny story about
Wait,
Jason Biggs.
Okay, go for it.
I met him at the Graduate when I saw the play in high school, and I asked him for the time.
oh.
Isn't that nice?
You said what time is it?
I asked him what time it was.
And
he
you
told me.
were you staged during the show?
Yeah, I was staged
What
during
time
the
was
show.
it?
I don't know.
Wait a minute,
Probably
you asked him
4:30.
Get out of here.
You asked him at the stage door what time it was?
Yeah, because
so weird.
how was I going to talk to him otherwise?
What time?
Oh, yeah, I guess.
He's like,
So
check
that
your
was your
phone.
way of hitting on Jason Biggs.
So
Look
what
how
do you
far
got?
it got me.
So Jason Biggs, you're all saying about 3.5 dreidels?
Yeah.
You're all wrong. 0 dreidels. He's a Catholic.
Ah.
Go!
So see, now Danielle,
Wow,
Danielle has
Danielle.
locked the crux of this game by saying I didn't even know he was Jewish.
He's not.
Danielle, you got to commit, okay?
They're not all Jewish, is that right?
Yeah, right, of course. Okay, next one. How many dreidels Jewish is Scarlett Johansson?
She, I believe, is half Jewish, so we'll say 2.5.
2.5.
Yeah, I'll go with that. 2.5.
That's correct. That's correct. You got it. Danielle
Okay.
doesn't care. Okay, moving on.
Danielle, people say Danielle looks like Scarlett Johansson, and they say that Danielle is Jewish. So she's ticking off the boxes.
Okay, here we go. Everybody, Mintzes. How many dreidels Jewish is Steven Seagal?
Ooh.
I'm going to say he's not Jewish.
I don't think he's Jewish.
No Jew has a ponytail like that.
Didn't he convert or something? Or,
I don't know.
I don't know.
Danielle?
We need an answer, please.
I'll go with 1.
Thanks, Danielle. That doesn't help me at all. One what? The answer? 5. Steven Seagal, very Jewish. He's Jewish.
Oh, wow.
He's Jewish. Okay.
Okay, here's the next one. We'll go for a lady now. How many dreidel Jewish is Nicole Kidman?
Oh, none.
Goyish.
No, none.
Goyish.
None, which is also
Are you sure about
on the
this?
dreidel.
None, which is on the trade.
Are we sure?
Yeah, I'm going to say yes. We're sure.
You're right, Nicole Kidman, Catholic. All right, moving on.
No, there's no Australian Jews.
How Jewish is Sean Penn?
Oh.
Oh, see, I'd say none, but then the nose throws.
I think he's somewhere in the middle. Maybe 3.5 to 4. I'm not sure.
He does it well with Harvey Milk, but
Interesting. I like you doing some research for this answer.
Yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna say the 3.5.
Yeah.
Okay. He's very Jewish. He identifies as Jewish.
Okay,
Oh,
good.
see, with this list, you should have also included their real names.
Oh,
Because it's
I
always
should
the
have,
best
I
when it's
should
like
have, I
Sean
should have.
Penn, and his real name is like Sean Marskowitz. And
Okay,
it's like,
here we go.
okay.
Ooh, here we go. Let's go back to Clueless. Alicia Silverstone. How Jewish are we?
she's 5 dreidels. I think she's
5
I think
dreidels
she's
for
totally
Cher
Jewish.
from Clueless?
I think
Really?
she's totally Jewish.
Alicia Silverstone.
As if. She is. She's 5 dreidels. She's very Jewish, Alicia Silverstone. She's in your camp. Next one. Cool guy. Nicolas Cage. Let's go. How many dreidels? Nick Cage.
4?
He's 4 dreidels Jewish.
Nick Cage.
2.5.
Yeah, I was gonna say 2.5.
Nicolas Cage. Catholic. Okay.
Oh.
We got 2 more. Here we go. Zac Efron. Are we going to his bar mitzvah or not? Zac Efron, High School Musical days.
I'm gonna say
No, I think
Goyish.
He's
He's
Goyish.
Goyish, yeah.
Goyish.
Greatest showman, Zac Efron. Goyish. You give no dreidels?
No
No
dreidels.
dreidels.
Danielle?
Which
No
is what I
dreidels.
also rated High School Musical as. 0 dreidels.
That's right.
What is
John?
Goyish?
That's a non-Jew.
A non-Jew.
Non-Jewish.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So, Zac Efron, John?
I'm going to say he's not Jewish.
Hate to break it to all of you. You'd find him on J-Date. He's Jewish. Zac Efron.
Oh, wow.
You got a good one. All right, my last one. Here we go.
His name is Zachary. That's a religious
That's
name,
right. It is Zachary. Bradley Cooper. Final one. Bradley Cooper. Cool guy. The Coop. What do we think?
I'm going to say
dreidels?
no. I'm going to say no.
I'm going to say no dreidels.
I'm going to say
No, really?
I've been told that I look Jewish a lot. I've also been told that Bradley Cooper looks like a healthy version of me. So I would say, based on that, if I'm not Jewish, he's not Jewish.
Okay.
That's my reasoning.
I'm going half.
I'll
half
say,
Jewish. Which, his left half or his right half?
I'll say 1.5.
1.5. Jess?
I said, I can change my answer. I'll say 2.
Okay. Well, you can find Bradley Cooper at a Catholic church.
Oh, I was right with my first
Not a
answer.
Jew, not a
I
Jew.
told
trusted
you you
my
should have stuck
instinct.
with it. You should have stuck with it.
And last one, the Dalai Lama. How Jewish? No. Okay. That was the game. Good job. I think you
What do
got
we win?
about half right. Nothing.
You win nothing. You win
None.
dreidels.
Adoration.
How Jewish is Mel Brooks?
He's very Jewish.
10
10
dreidels?
dreidels.
He's building dreidels every day.
So
10 dreidels. If he and Woody Allen went into a dreidel throwing match, they would
Yep.
both knock each other out.
Yeah. Well, I was telling Danielle the other day, Mel Brooks came from writing on a comedy show where the writer's room was Mel Brooks, Carl Reiner, Woody Allen, and what's his name?
Simon.
Neil Simon.
Wow.
The most
Wow,
Jewish
it's
room.
incredible.
Cool.
The most Jewish room of people.
Yeah.
And a lot of the funniest people alive are Jewish.
Oh, yeah.
There's a huge connection between
Yeah.
humor and Judaism.
Yes.
And I want to say that I don't know where that comes from.
I think it's because we face so much adversity.
I was
Our
gonna say,
people
that's what I
face
think-
so much adversity
correct.
over time, and sometimes humor is the way of dealing with things.
Yeah, and we keep going back to the Hasidics, but I think there's something inherently true about the fact that if you're so specifically not going to laugh at yourself, you can bet I'm going to laugh at you even more. Like, not laugh at you, but like,
Yeah.
like if you're so like, the more serious you are, the funnier it makes it
Sure.
when somebody turns that on its head. I think.
Sure.
And it's even better when it's you doing it to yourself because then nobody's getting offended. But I just found that so strange that Jews are usually so funny. So what happened with you guys?
Well, Rob's between the two of us, I would say Rob is probably the straight man.
Yeah.
So
He's like, yes.
Yes, I am.
we do have to talk about the holidays.
Okay.
Oh, sure.
We do have to talk about the holidays. Because you're surrounded by Christmas stuff. You guys kind of do half the Christmas thing, most of the Christmas thing, or whatever.
I have a Santa on my lap at the
Right.
moment.
She does.
And he's got a stuffed matzah
He does.
And a Grinch shirt.
and a Grinch
Yes.
shirt. Right.
I'm a Jew, a lonely Jew.
There you go.
He sings.
So
South Park.
I want you guys to teach us about Hanukkah. We know very little. Going into this, I asked you what were some of the traditions, what were some of the things that we needed to have for Hanukkah,
Okay.
and you gave me a bit of a rundown. So tell us what kind of foods we would need for Hanukkah.
So usually what people eat during Hanukkah are fried foods.
Oh, I love
So
it. I'm Jewish.
on the table here, we've got three things on the table
Yes.
here. One of which is not for Hanukkah.
Yeah,
One is not like the other.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's just say we really have this stuff here.
We really do.
We really. Here's the table.
I took
We
a
have
photo
stuff.
of it. You'll find it on Instagram.
Yeah. Okay.
We presented our version of a Hanukkah meal, which is 2 chicken cutlets, a stack of hash browns
Because we couldn't get latkes.
because we couldn't get latkes, and a bunch of matzah because
That
we're
John broke up
racist.
with his hands.
because we're a little racist.
And
Yeah.
these work right. I
And
think.
sour cream. No, that's sour cream.
Yeah.
And then
Applesauce.
applesauce.
So
Also, second episode where we talk about applesauce.
That's right.
Go back to the chef episode.
So tell us how did we do?
well, the matzah is not associated with Hanukkah.
Okay,
That's
great.
associated with Passover.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Unleavened
But A
bread.
for effort.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. A for getting something Jewish.
Yeah.
So
I was in the Jewish aisle today at the supermarket. And
we appreciate that.
But you couldn't find latkes.
No.
And so the chicken.
The fried chicken,
the chicken that's breaded and fried, so therefore that's fine. You basically, if anything that's fried in oil
Right.
is what you're going for, because the backstory of Hanukkah is that the second temple in Jerusalem was desecrated under the reign of King Antiochus IV. Just a little bit more backstory. His predecessor, his father, Antiochus III, was very tolerant and allowed Jews to practice. But his son was not tolerant at all. He basically ordered idols to the Greek gods to be put up in the temple, and there were sacrifices of pigs inside the temple, which is obviously a big no-no. So eventually there was a rebellion led by
Mel Brooks.
Yeah.
it was a rebellion that took back the temple and rededicated it to the Jewish faith, and that's what Hanukkah means. The meaning of Hanukkah is literally means dedication. So that's what the holiday means. Now, the significance of the oil is that there was only enough olive oil to light the Hanukkah, which is basically this lantern, this really 9-stemmed lantern, or to commemorate the days, to this celebration. But the oil was only supposed to last for one night, but it lasted for 8. And that was the time that was needed to produce more fresh, unadulterated olive oil. So that's what the holiday now signifies, and that's why we light the menorah, one candle each night.
Which is a miracle that it lasted.
And
Right.
Right.
and the dreidel actually.
But we're
reads-
thanking God that it lasted.
Yeah.
Of course.
And the dreidel, we play the dreidel, which is like a spin top, but it says a miracle happened here.
Right.
That's what the letters, that's what the
Yeah.
symbols mean. A
Yep.
miracle happened here.
And so we eat fried stuff to commemorate.
You would get
Now-
so many more converts if you opened with that.
Yeah.
Right.
On your JJ website.
There's also sort of a bit of a legend behind the story of the dreidel as well. And I don't necessarily know if it's true. It's what I've read, but there's like a line that says, when the legend becomes fact, you print the legend. But the legend was that the dreidel became used because since the practice of Judaism was outlawed, that was a way for children to learn and study the Torah in a basic way by spinning the dreidel.
Yeah.
And it looked like it was a game. So
I remember learning about that in school. I have a very vivid memory of learning about that in Hebrew school.
So I don't know if you listened to our last episode. It was the first of our holiday episodes. It was our Christmas episode. We had the F.E.O. Schwartz Soldier, and we sang. I think we don't have the Nothing Podcast Orchestra with us today.
No.
But I think we should sing a little bit of
Hava Nagila.
Oh Hanukkah. Shall we get to it? We all know it from grade school. Danielle, do you know it?
No.
Can I tell you something? You're gonna ask me right now to sing "Oh Hanukkah." You normally sing "Oh Hanukkah." That's "Oh Canada."
No.
We can do Herman the Hanukkah candle.
Hanukkah, oh Hanukkah, come light the menorah.
You guys know this
Jess.
song?
Let's have
a
a
party,
party,
we'll
we'll
all
all dance the
hora.
hora.
Oh.
Gather around the table, we'll give you a treat.
I went to public school, shining tops to play with and pancakes to eat.
Like us.
Oh, but in my
While
public
we-
school, they whitewashed it to pancakes. Thank you very much. And while we... John is looking in utter disbelief. See? That's where your
I got chastised for
$30,000 Catholic school education
I
got
got chastised
you.
for knowing the lyrics to Christmas songs for an entire hour and a half last week. You know all the
Okay,
lyrics
it
to "Oh
gets
Hanukkah."
good. Here we go. And while we... Everybody are praying. Here we go. The candles are burning low. One for each night, they will share a great light to remind us of days long ago. All right, we got it.
All right.
What the?
Yeah.
I've never heard that song in my life.
Yeah.
You think I
I've
could
heard
go
the
on
song,
Birthright
but
if I know
not
it?
only the first
So-
two
I've
words.
never-
But I'll tell
When
you.
did you guys sing? Like, that's so nice. I
In
want to learn
public
that.
school.
But I'll tell you another
went to
cool
public
fact
school.
of Hanukkah that you like. One of the leaders, the most celebrated leader of the rebellion, was a man who was named Judah Maccabee.
Oh,
which,
yeah.
Yes, which translates to Judah the Hammer.
Nice.
So for any of you,
Wrestler.
any of you wrestling fans out there, if you want somebody to celebrate, come to our side. We got the guys with the cool names.
Yeah.
So now, but the thing is that we're not. I don't know if it was because it was basically to celebrate his ferocity in battle, or other people say that he actually used a sledgehammer in battle.
Oh,
So
that's cool.
Yeah, the original Donnie Donowitz.
Right, yeah. That's cool. Did you guys feel seen by the Rugrats Hanukkah episode? Well, I only knew about Judah Maccabee because Tommy in that
They tell
episode
the whole story.
they were the Maccababies.
Yes, that's right. The Maccababies.
Yeah,
That's right.
So did you
remember
guys
that.
feel like, wow, Grandpa Boris really speaks to me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
I mean, what a bold! It shouldn't be so bold, but let's be honest, it's pretty bold that they did that. They were like, okay, we're not going to do a Christmas episode. We're going to do a Hanukkah episode, and they did a Passover episode.
They did. They
Yeah.
did.
It's pretty
I thought it
amazing.
was fantastic.
Yeah, that's
And we
crazy.
didn't grow up with a lot of Jewish shows, really. I think about it.
no
No.
way.
No.
But and I'll take a lot of blame for this. I'm a fairly spiritual guy. I like to consider myself somewhat scholared when it comes to biblical.
Everyone, please listen to season 1, the episode with the spiritualist, to see just how unspiritual John actually
Oh,
is.
I'm not
Because he
spiritual.
literally finished the episode by going, "I believe that you believe what you're saying." That was John's. That was it.
No. Well, I'm just like theologically.
Yeah.
I like to call myself
You're
learned.
schooled. Yeah,
Somewhat
you're a learned holy man. I always thought that about you. Yeah.
When writing this episode, I went to my Cliff Notes on the book of Exodus. Another story for another day. And I was ready to pull all my Moses material to throw at you guys. And then halfway through doing that, I realized,
Wrong holiday.
well, Moses is not Hanukkah.
No.
I had already bought the matzah,
Yeah.
but I knew, no.
It's good with coffee. I mean,
Yeah, no,
Anytime.
we're going to eat it. My mom eats matzah every morning.
She likes it year round.
Oh, well, my mom eats it with butter every morning for breakfast.
Every morning.
Well, not every morning, but most of the time.
Okay.
that's nice.
But you know what? Whatever.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
I'd like
It's
to
a
just
messy.
ask. I grow the worst facial hair ever. Could I ever be an Orthodox Jew?
Oh.
What would
Do
happen?
you have connectors?
What does
Do
that
they
mean?
connect?
Not so much. No.
Well,
Like,
there's
what if I?
different
Okay,
degrees.
this makes me nervous. If I was
I mean,
born
John
in
will definitely fit in.
John, okay, but if I was
Oh, hell
born
yeah.
into an Orthodox Jewish family, and then as I kept growing and my facial hair was like not doing what it was supposed to do, would they be okay with me?
Yeah.
Yeah, they would.
Fine.
Oh,
Orthodox.
yeah.
We're talking about
They
like
can't- they can't help that,
well,
okay?
Young boys.
I can't get a full beard either. Mine turns
thank
out like
God
Chris.
for that.
Mine turns out like Chris Pratt from Guardians of the Galaxy. So
Okay.
Yeah. You don't need a beard. I don't
lots of
think.
crumbs all over you.
Would
I
we
love it.
have? Would we have? Do we have Hebrew names that you guys would know or no?
Oh, look,
Oh.
no, I just find them.
you can
I
probably
mean-
just
What are you-
generate
what are-
them.
what are
Well,
the most-
well, it's interesting because when you are given a Hebrew name, it can be done different ways. Like our daughter Amelia, we had her named, which is the ceremony.
that's
It's
so
I don't
cool.
want to say it's similar to a baptism or a christening.
so cool. I didn't
but,
know that.
But you can have your child named and given a Hebrew name, so you can look up, the meaning of the name, a story behind the name. So the idea is that your name can kind of, I don't want to say predict, but I guess that's the word I would use to predict how your life would be, or what kind of, not how your life would be, what kind of person you might be.
Oh.
You know,
It's not a translation. I thought it was a translation of your name.
It- sometimes
people
it
can
can
also
be.
do it to honor, dead,
Grandparents,
dead
right,
Yeah.
relatives,
right.
things like that.
That's one thing. Also, Jewish people don't name their children after people who are still alive.
Right.
oh.
Whereas, I think Catholic people will name, John the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th.
Oh
you know.
yeah.
Um,
yeah.
you know,
Catholic,
but-
We'll name 'em
your-
Apple.
Your parents
Right.
get offended if they're not named after.
Yeah.
I found our Hebrew names online. Mine is a harder translation. So John would be Yochanan,
Sure.
and I would be Elkanah.
What about Danielle?
I forgot Danielle was.
Danielle Fisher. He goes, I forgot Danielle was here.
Thanks.
Speak up, Danielle.
You know what Danielle means? Danielle is a Hebrew origin, the name Danielle, and it means God is my judge.
Oh yeah, I
that's nice.
knew that actually.
What are some of the best Hebrew words? I love the language. I love all sorts of languages. I'm also big fan of silly noises. So they kind of meld together. Give me some good Hebrew words.
Well, there's Hebrew and there's Yiddish. I think
Right.
a lot of
Yiddish,
people
Hebrew,
think
hit
the
me with it.
Yiddish,
You can
the
make it
Yiddish
up, I would
words
never know.
are funny.
A schnorrer. That's one.
A schnorrer, that's someone who's very cheap,
Yeah, schnorrer.
like who only puts out 2 chicken cutlets.
It's the best we have.
What does Shobani mean? I've heard that one before.
Or El
Yogurt.
Chobani.
Oh,
Yogurt. We never thought that. Okay.
That was my favorite Hebrew word always.
There's a shiksa.
Yeah.
I know that one.
Chick's a goddess.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yes.
Jason Robert Brown.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a girl who's not
Not
Jewish.
Yep.
Danielle.
I'm half a shiksa.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Nice.
Meshugana, which means crazy,
That's of course.
which is a great one. Kindala means kids, which is a nice, which you might
Schmutz?
remember from the Rugrats episode.
Rugrats
Schmutz
episode.
is
Kindala,
dirt.
yeah.
Dirt,
schmutz.
schmutz.
You got some schmutz on your forehead, which I like to say on Ash Wednesday to people at the supermarket.
It's funny
Close.
that you bring up to me Ash Wednesday because Ash Wednesday, it's a thing you don't see, unfortunately. I mean, I guess it's not unfortunate. Whatever, believe what you want. The number of people you see with ashes on Ash Wednesday out in the street in public during the day, way less than it was when we were kids, for sure. With people my age and our generation, people would always comment or look at you crazy when you have the ashes.
Yeah.
And I always would get so offended when people would look at me with the ashes or comment or say like, oh, you got a little something. And that's not that you said it, but you know what I'm saying? But, like people joke and laugh about it.
Yeah.
And every year on Ash Wednesday, I identify with Jews. Because even not Hasidic or whatever, there's a sect of Jews, I don't know what you would call them, that wear yarmulkes, like
Orthodox.
right.
Yeah.
And every year on Ash Wednesday, I think to myself, what must they go through? They show their faith publicly
Yeah.
on a regular basis. I do it for one day, and I'm made to feel like I'm an idiot. They go through their life like that. And there's a lot of people who don't like it. That must really be tough. Like, to feel like you can't show what you believe in public without being chastised in this generation.
But I think people are like maybe more used to Jewish people than... Look, we do once
know.
a year, there's dirt on my forehead.
I know,
That's
but
weird.
I'm just saying that one day a year, and this has always been. It makes me.
Yeah, I get
it
it.
makes
It makes
me
you
identify.
self-conscious.
Right.
Sure.
I makes me understand a little more what it would be like to be part of a religion that
Was outwardly
that you could
expressed.
that outwardly expressed
Sure.
that you could see.
Well, you have. I mean, I think Orthodox Jewish people wear. They have to usually wear the yarmulkes. Proudly, and I think
Sure.
it's just. It's who they are, and they're proud of it, and they're part of a community of people who share similar beliefs and ideologies, and so they don't feel alone. They don't feel like they're the only person with schmutz on their forehead.
Right.
It's a little bit different. And then you have Muslim girls who wear hijabs, and you have turban, and the Sikhs who wear turbans, and it's part of who they are, and that's how they identify, and most are proud, but that doesn't mean that they don't come up against adversity. I mean, that's
Sure, of course not. No, of course they do. You see, yeah.
But don't you think we're like entering into a phase where things maybe I have no right to even say this. Maybe the fact that I even have to preface it shows me that maybe we're not at that point yet, where people are a lot more accepting of things. And I work in a public school, right? And there's one of my students. She had come to me and she was like, "Do you think I could pray in here?" She's a Muslim girl. I said, "Yeah, when do you have to do it?" And she said between certain times. Like she'd have to miss class for like 5 minutes. I said, "You could totally do it, but you got to just bring a note from your parent, right? Just so you could get to miss class, right?" She comes every day to my office or one of the offices next door. 5 minutes, she does her prayer. I love it. I'm all about it. I feel like we're at a time though where I don't know. Maybe it all ties into like Me Too, Trump era, all this stuff that's going on. But I feel like at least the people I know seem a lot more open-minded than they did even 5 years ago.
Oh yeah.
Or just a lot more like, yeah, everybody's different. It's cool, whatever.
Yeah.
I agree.
Right?
I agree. And I think the fact that it seems that way to you, and I think this has been a lot of throwback, but it takes us back a little bit to the Bear episode we did with Richard Jones back in season 1, where we discussed how it seemed like people were way more tolerant now. But his response to that was like, yeah, to you it seems that way because you're tolerant.
Okay.
If you were not as tolerant, and you surrounded yourself with people who weren't as tolerant, no, it wouldn't seem that way.
Remember, after all, we're all coming at this from this New York perspective.
Sure.
We are in one of the most diverse, multicultural places in the world. So this is commonplace for us. But if you go somewhere just a few hours away from here where it's a completely different environment, it may not be the same thing.
Right. They don't have Jews at all, like in the Midwest or whatever. Like,
Right. I mean, they may have them in like small little pockets,
I mean,
but
right.
it's, the density of it and the exposure of it is on a completely different level.
So they carry Jewish people in their pockets? Bert, back up.
No, but you're absolutely right. Like, yeah, but it's they are there. I didn't mean to say they weren't there at all, but like in the Midwest,
of course.
they may not understand it at all. Which brings me to my next question. Where are your horns? Can I see your horns?
Oh my God!
That's a thing.
What?
Is that not a thing?
It was a thing.
That's
yeah.
a thing.
Yeah, my stepmother went to Binghamton University, and this was probably in the 80s, and her roommate was from the South, and the first thing she asked her said, "Oh, you're Jewish? Where are your horns?"
But she meant it?
And she meant
that's
it,
a
yes.
real thing.
She meant that medically this woman had horns?
It's one of...
My father was in the Army in the late 60s, and he trained in the South, and so therefore he had, platoon mates who were from the Deep South, who were from, the sticks out in Tennessee, and one time when they were in the showers, because my dad wears a Star of David, and one of the guys looks at him and says, "Well, what's that?" And he says, "It's a Star of David." "What is that?" "It's, symbol of my faith." "What faith is that?" "I'm Jewish." "Oh, does that mean you don't believe in God?" Like,
Right.
the complete lack
There's
of
no
understanding.
lack of right.
But these guys also didn't know what a freaking escalator was.
Right,
So
right,
it's
right,
just-
right.
Again,
Yeah.
It's ignorance.
it's ignorance, and
ignorance,
it's lack of experience and lack of exposure that breeds that.
Absolutely. You never heard that, Frank?
That Jews have horns? Only like from Borat. Is that terrible? No, I never heard that.
Throw the Jew down the well.
Right.
That sort of
Right,
thing.
right,
Yeah,
right.
I know.
Now, you guys, you're doing this podcast. Does this count as a mitzvah for you?
We're helping you out. Sure.
Thank you. Danielle, do you know what a mitzvah is?
No.
John, mitzvah?
Yeah.
A mitzvah is a good deed.
Aww.
Oh.
It's a nice mitzvah. So something else we should talk about before we play our next game, which is really a scene we're going to act out, is you need to know this backstory. And Jess, years ago, was an elf at Macy's Santaland in Herald Square, right? What
Yep.
was your elf name?
My elf name was Nutmeg.
What was the elf costume? Nutmeg.
It was, well, we had a choice between a green or a red shirt as a base, and then we had, the red and white stripe, knee highs, and they gave us the shoes and an apron and a hat. You had to check in every day. You had to go. Your costume was hung, in a little area, and you had to go to the lady and pick it up and put it on.
It was all very hot.
Yeah. But I remember applying for the job in October because I was in grad school at the time. I wasn't a full-time teacher yet. And I was like, well, I need some extra money for the holidays, what the hell. And I had some friends one of my directors from college, worked there. And so I said, let me interview and see what happens. So I applied, got an interview, and they corral you and they put you in a room with a bunch of other elf-like people.
Do you have to be a certain height?
No, well, they didn't know because elves come in all shapes and sizes.
Sure.
So yeah, I remember going into the room, and basically you go through this interview process, and it's like Merry Christmas, and it's October, but it's like, okay, it's
Right,
Christmas
sure.
time, and everybody's really hyped up, and basically they this guy comes into the room who is like one of the head honchos, and he's like pointing to everybody, do you believe in Santa? Do you believe in Santa? And he points to me and he says, do you believe in Santa? And I say, well, I'm Jewish. And he says, well, Jews can believe in Santa too. I said, you're right. I said, I do believe in Santa.
And you also wanted the job.
And I wanted
Right.
the job. So I believe anything at that point.
This is very much like the Santaland Diaries.
yeah,
What, is it just like that?
It is pretty much like that, with some updates. There was digital cameras when I was doing it. But it was a fun experience. And Rob actually, we were dating at the time, and this was this before Birthright? I think it was the year before, right?
Might have been,
Yeah. And Rob came to see me, and if you've ever waited online at Santaland, it's a long wait, especially a week or two before Christmas.
Right.
And he waited for 2 hours to see me. Yes.
Wow.
And so
Well, you didn't get to bring the outfit home or something? Like you didn't put it on, take a picture.
yeah, I told him to tell like the head usher elf that he was Mr. Nutmeg. And they brought him to the right.
And you picked the name
house.
Nutmeg?
Yeah, there's similarly to when you get bar bat mitzvah, you get to pick a Hebrew name, or when you're born,
You get to pick your elfin name.
you get to pick your elfin
So
name.
Nutmeg jumped out at you.
Yeah,
Frank, what would your elfin name have been?
My elf name would have been like, oh, geez.
Probably frankincense or
It
something like that.
has to be food-based, I'd
It
imagine.
could be. I mean, there was
It
sugar
could be.
cookie. It
You
could
could
be
twinkle.
so there's snowflake, ginger snap, things like that.
Nutmeg you picked.
Danielle,
That
what would
would've been
yours
Snowflake.
be? Yours would have been
Yeah, no
Snowflake?
question.
Snowflake? John, what would you be?
Danielle's would have been Millennial.
Do you have to have a
Snowflake.
voice as
Get it?
Nutmeg or no?
You just have to be really happy.
Listening?
I feel like my my elf name would be like, I don't know. I know what my Hebrew name would be, Maury.
What?
No, my elf name.
Maury the elf would be hilarious.
No, I think my elf name would be like Apple Butter. something like that. Tickles.
It's me, Tickles. All right, so here's our scene. So we haven't done a scene in a while on the show. So here's our scene. We
It's
know
been
that.
a while since we did a scene. I
Yeah,
was
we
thinking
haven't
about
done this in
that.
a long time. So, John, you could play Santa.
Sure, yeah.
I'll play Mrs. Claus. Danielle's Prancer. Jess, you're our daughter, the elf Nutmeg, and you're here to tell us you're marrying a Jew. Okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
And we also don't know what Jews are because we're
Oh no, yeah.
no idea.
And you
Okay.
and you
North
have
Pole.
never met
No.
my.
Here we go. And Bert, you're just you. You play you.
Okay.
Okay.
He doesn't
Bert.
get a name. Does he get called?
No, he's just
Hebrew
Bert.
name. Does he get his Hebrew name, or it's just
Label Reuven.
Okay, here we go.
All right, okay.
Okay.
a Reuben sandwich?
Ready?
I'm marrying a
All right, here
Reuben
we go.
sandwich.
Scene is we're in the workshop. We're having some hot cocoa.
Sure.
It's a nice day. And action. Lights up.
Hey, Mom. Hey, Dad.
Hello.
Oh, Nutmeg, come in, darling.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Oh, I'm well. I'm very well.
He
Jolly
is well.
even.
He is.
Yes.
I've had such a long day at the workshop.
We do work her hard.
We did.
Gotta get that one in there.
Your father.
Yep. What's going on?
Did
babe?
you want to tell us something, darling? You look nervous.
A little bit.
Prancer, shut the door. Sorry. Good.
Prancer, I told you, outside.
Oh, darling.
Tell us.
So, Nutmeg, what is it you wanted to tell us?
Well, as you know, I've been seeing this guy. I don't know if you know very much about him, but I've been dating this guy.
Is he an elf?
Twinkle's boy, no?
No, things didn't work out with Twinkle's.
Oh, okay. I don't have time to keep up with these things.
Is it Sprinkles' son? The Sprinkles family's very nice.
No, he's not Sprinkles. He's from a different type of family.
South Pole?
More like Northeast Pole. Like New York Pole.
Okay. Oh, we
Okay.
go to New York.
Sure, of course.
FAO Schwartz.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you know, we've been dating, and I think it's been getting serious over the last few months.
Wonderful.
Like marriage. Serious?
I think so.
Well,
I can
darling,
see.
you are 800 years old. This is about your time.
Yeah.
It's about time.
And you know, I'm not getting any younger.
Sure.
And,
Yes.
you
Of
know,
course, I was
slim
gonna say
pickings
that.
out there. And he asked me to marry him
Yes.
the other night. And,
Wonderful. I approve.
And,
Unless there's something else we should know, I think that
well,
we're good.
He's not like us. He's a little bit different.
He's not eternal.
He's not eternal.
Oh.
But he's okay with that. He's okay. And he's Jewish.
What does that mean? What is that? I've never heard of that before. It sounds delicious.
How many Christmas trees does he have?
This is Prancer here. He has none.
He has.
Prancer, what was that?
He
boy?
has-
Oldest boy, Prancer?
He has a Hanukkah bush.
Oh,
A hun.
oh, no.
What is that?
He's not a Christian. He celebrates Jewish holidays like Hanukkah and Passover and Purim.
What is Jewish? What does it mean?
Have you ever delivered to his house?
No, no, I would think not. What does this mean? What is Jewish?
What is that?
mean? What's the difference? What does it mean? What does it?
Well, for one thing, Jewish people don't believe in Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior.
Oh, what does that have to do with me?
Your father's only Saint Nicholas.
That's got nothing to do with me. Don't worry about it. Literally thinking about it now, I don't understand
What does that have to do with
what's
you?
it have to do with me.
So doesn't have a Christmas tree.
No, he doesn't.
Well,
does he
you're
have?
not bringing him here, I hope.
Well, I was hoping that we could have him over, you know, maybe for the holidays or for a
Sure.
gathering.
What's one night?
Oh, well, this is the other thing I forgot to tell you. He's actually here.
Oh.
He took a flight over the red eye to the North Pole.
Oh, he has a sled.
Like I said, again, it's no big deal.
Okay.
What's one night? Prancer, get the door.
Hello.
Shalom.
Oh.
What?
Hi, honey.
Hi. So, how'd it go?
You don't come in here and speak ill in my home.
What?
I don't know what that means, you said.
That was hello.
Okay.
In my ancestral language.
What are those things on your head?
They're antlers.
Oh,
he's
spiritual.
He's. Why do you wear the funny little hat?
Because my head was cold.
Oh, okay, I understand.
He seems like a nice enough fellow, I think.
He's a very nice fellow.
How'd it go?
Oh, it went. It's going. I just told them just right before you knocked on the door.
Oh.
And I have to tell you, I like it.
You like him?
I'm into it. Bring in something new into the house. Why not?
Great.
Latkes, anyone?
Latkes? I love those. I knew all the time what it was.
And scene. Great.
Wonderful. Yay.
Wow, we really showed how open the clauses were.
The clauses,
We're open.
they're not closeted.
They're not.
They're very open.
Okay, I have a question. What does being Jewish mean to you? And can you sell us on being Jewish in one sentence?
Oh my goodness.
Decent, right?
That's a great transition.
I mean, what does being Jewish mean to me? It's probably been a very, very long time since I've considered that. And, I think once upon a time, a long time ago, that was asked, especially when I was in Hebrew school. I think we had to sort of think about those things. And I really never was able to come up with a good answer for it because it's very complicated being part of a minority, especially one that's had such a fraught history. And it obviously gives you a certain level of connection, and it's important to understand what that connection is with other people who are similar to you, and also to have these traditions that are important to carry on and to educate the future generations about. And it's kind of broad, I guess, thinking about it in that way, but it
almost feels like, it does make us special. And there is pride in, being with other Jewish people. And, when Rob and I met, and even now I think our feeling about being Jewish is the same. We're not particularly religious in the sense, if you're looking at the hierarchy of, from Hasidic to where we are, which is probably Reformed or secular. But I think that we connected over certain values. When we met, the family was important, and education was important, and tradition was important. And I think that's where part of the connection was. Mm-hmm. And for myself, I think that's where the connection is to that part of, because, I am Jewish with some Italian Catholic infusion, but I do identify as Jewish. And I think that, but those things are probably, the family, traditions and the values and the education are probably, what connects me to being Jewish.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Can you sell us on why we should be Jewish in one sentence?
In one sentence.
What's your pitch?
Like, what's the best
What's
part?
The pitch for this faith?
There's got to be a bonus somewhere.
Yeah.
I think back to different organizations I belonged to, throughout the years through school, whether it be Hebrew school or in college. There was Chabad house where you could go to the rabbi's house and have Shabbat dinner. There was always, you're welcome here. And you didn't have to be Jewish to come here. If I brought an elf to dinner, that would have been fine, because you're welcome and you're open to learning about the faith or being a part of it, even if it was for a couple of hours, a day, whatever. I think that is what makes Judaism so special. It's not like, you're not allowed in here, I'm going to shut the door in your face. You're welcome here, and I think that maybe is what sets Judaism apart. I can't speak to other faiths, but in my experience, I think that's what really sells me on it.
Cool.
But I think also, I don't know if it's necessarily a stereotype, but one of the stories is that if somebody wants to convert, you get turned away like 3 times or something.
Yeah.
Like that. And I don't know if it's really true or not, but the idea is that, you're welcome, but at the same time, they don't want you to be somebody who's flaky. Like, if you want to be part of this, you should be serious about it.
Not a fair weather Jew.
Right.
Yeah, you have to be serious about it. Yeah. Which I think is fair.
Yeah.
Because some people do get married. They might meet somebody who is, Jewish, and they're not Jewish, but it's important to the family that they convert. And they just want to make sure that you're not converting for the wrong reasons. Oh, it's just because I want to marry this person. That you're actually going to immerse yourself in the religion and really truly be Jewish. And I totally understand why that's the case. I think that would be the case in any religion.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's always compared. People always talk about feeling left out. It doesn't seem like you guys ever really particularly felt left out when it came to the holidays.
Yeah.
Like, Christmas comes along, and because you always sort of had Christmas.
Yeah,
yes,
it was big.
And Bert, you never wanted it, so. But people always talk about, you were singing before, the lonely Jew, right? He misses everybody's celebrating Christmas, and he's not. But you guys don't seem to have ever felt that. Not ever, but not really felt that way, right?
Did you ever feel that way growing up?
No, because again, this is sort of the part that comes with being from the New York area. Even when I was younger, I grew up in New Jersey for my first 10 years. But even so, it was Bergen County where there were still plenty of Jews. Basically, when you're in this area, you're not really, you're minority, but you're not really alone.
Right.
And I think if I were in a different part of either the country or the world and Jewish, where I was much, much more a minority, like, a single percentage worth of the population, my feelings might have been different.
Sure.
Because then I really might have felt left out and felt
felt ostracized.
really, yeah, exactly, felt ostracized and different. But also, you know what? It also depends on the people that you are surrounded by. You never know. I could have been in a minority, a really, really, really major, small minority, but surrounded by people who were understanding.
Right.
So again, it's all context.
Right.
Yeah.
That's cool.
The closing question I have is, people always say Christmas or Hanukkah. If you celebrate Christmas or you celebrate Hanukkah, where do they get tied together? Like,
Well, I think
they fall at the same time, but are they really the same thing?
They fall
Like,
at the same time, but in terms of importance, like on the scale, if we're going to rate them in dreidels, Hanukkah is not a really important holiday compared to Christmas. Christmas is a major holiday.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Well, and
I would say Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, the Jewish New Year,
Not even
are
Passover.
probably more.
Passover is probably number 3.
I would say number 3
Really?
on the list, but I would say Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are the most important holidays.
Right.
If you want to talk about what's important, basically just see what the schools close for.
Right,
yeah,
right.
yeah, I'd
Right.
say, yeah.
Right. But
And they've also changed, over time, but yeah.
Yeah.
Do you guys get offended when people say Merry Christmas to you and don't say Happy Holidays?
No.
No, we never did.
I don't know if there's that many people.
If somebody
that
says Merry
do.
Christmas to me, I'll say Merry Christmas back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't. I think what I'm trying to get at with the whole thing there is that, like, I think everybody else is way more concerned about being inclusive
Yeah.
than
I think so.
the actual Jewish community feels
Yeah.
about being included.
well, you got some Hallmark movies now, so
Oh, yeah.
score one for the Jewish people.
Yeah, we do. There's
You're big
two
into
coming
Hallmark
out.
movies.
Yes.
I know,
Oh,
but it's
yes.
too late. But that was something we should have hit on. I will say though, the Christian perspective, if you really want to get theological, Easter is way more important than Christmas. Christmas is
Yeah.
just the commercialized one.
Oh, 100%.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Easter's more solemn holiday too. I mean, even though there's a lot of bunnies and chicks and stuff and chocolate, but
I guess
It is.
sort of makes sense.
Yeah, but it
But
is.
Passover has
It's
all
like
those
Yom Kippur.
traditions. Passover
Yeah.
has all
Yeah.
those traditions.
Yeah.
Whereas if I'm gonna again, when we were doing this, I was like, oh, what should I get? I gotta get like apples, honey, stuff like that. That's Passover. That's not.
no, that's
Bitter
Rosh
herbs.
Hashanah.
Oh, Rosh
That's
Hashanah, even.
yeah.
Right. That's
Right.
like.
That's the wish you a sweet
I mean,
New
the
Year.
the common thread with all the holidays
Wow, there you
are we came, we fought, we
We're still here.
survived. Let's eat.
Let's eat,
I
yeah.
mean, that's pretty much
They
it.
tried to kill us. We won. Let's
Yeah.
eat. Yeah.
So, is there anything we should do right now to close out to celebrate?
We could say
Hanukkah.
a prayer over the.
Oh,
Yes,
do it.
do something.
Over the latkes?
Something that we eat or something that we do.
And then we'll all crunch on the
Yeah,
matzah, and that's how we'll close out.
Well,
No,
typically-
matzah's not involved.
It's okay, but everybody take a matzah. Here, Bert, here's your matzah. Mm-hmm. Danielle, you have one? Danielle's 20 feet away from us. Okay, so Bert, will you please say a prayer, and then we'll all just chomp our matzahs, and that's how we'll go out. Is that good?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, before we do that, I want to thank you guys for coming in and doing this,
Oh,
Yeah.
thanks for having us.
and I really appreciate it. And I think we got somewhere real good with this episode. So I
Yeah.
really and I want to say Happy Hanukkah.
And John and I are going to
Happy-
apply
Happy
for birthright
Hanukkah, Merry
when you guys
Christmas.
leave. I think we'll get in.
Yeah, I
So-
think so.
I'm going.
All right,
So go
so
ahead,
I'll
let's
do
go.
I'll do a couple of prayers. First one is the standard Hanukkah prayer, and then I'll do one that's just typically over the bread, but since we have matzah,
Okay.
So the first one's for Hanukkah. So Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivhanu lahamlich ner shel Hanukkah.
Amen.
Amen.
Oh,
And then,
amen. I didn't know it was the end.
and then there's the one over the bread. So the matzah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen.
Yay!
Yay!
Happy Hanukkah!
Happy Hanukkah.
You've been listening to the Nothing Podcast with Nobody Important, a cool side production, hosted by John Panepinto and Frank Caiati, with contributors Matt Hunt, Joe Hagopian, and Tom Zaccheo, and engineered by me, Danielle Rosefisher. Find us online at nothing-podcast.com, and be sure to rate and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever fine podcasts are distributed.